How would they make writing a gig work?
Look, when I came into the business, the Homicide season was the production, pre-production, production, post. I had 30 weeks on, sometimes more, depending on the episodes. You can make a living off that, and then the other 20 weeks when you're not working, okay, we were paid at a decent enough rate. You hold on to your money, you wait for this next season, or if the show doesn't get picked up, you find another. You always had to find the gig, but the gig would pay you enough to make it plausible for you to afford a mortgage or for health insurance. Now, they'll start a mini room, they'll say, here's 3 weeks of salary. Oh, and by the way, we're not guaranteeing that you'll get a script for a script fee, just the 3 week salary. Just come and give us your ideas. We may make the show, we may hire you, we may not hire you, and then go find another gig. Or, we're not sure we're gonna order the show. Let's see if we order the show, but while we're deciding, don't take another job, we have you under contract for 3 weeks of work. And you gotta survive, and you gotta raise a family with that. It's crazy.
You're doing a series now, right? You do it, but it goes to HBO Max or something. What's the difference in how they compensate?
Well, I'm still compensated for the old things, but for example, when I worked on Homicide, there were 22 episodes, so writers had a chance to get more work. We were on staff for longer. The episodes were all, for lack of a better word, episodic, meaning they weren't all connected into one major story. Couldn't do that with 22. So you couldn't write them all in advance of filming a season. So basically they needed writers to hang around and make that show work. As the broadcast model has faded, and as shorter seasons with episodes that require more production quality, more comprehensive story work earlier on, they've been able to pay writers out faster. They'll make a pre-production room of 8 or 9 or 10 weeks paid, demand everybody's scripts in advance, and then leave a showrunner alone, or maybe with a minimum of assistants on set, to make all the changes that need to be made every time you lose a location, or every time you see something's not working with an actor, or every time you need to cut time. Shows, you don't finish writing when you hand in the first draft of the script, or even the shooting script. So you're always writing, and yet they've found a way to make showrunners do double the work and to cut other writers, story editors and staff writers, out of almost all of the paid salary. Well, that's resulted in guys not being able to make their mortgage, especially the younger writers.
Also, you mentioned people on set, right? There's fewer for writers, right? This strike is about getting better pay, but do you think it's also about saving jobs as they try to eliminate them?
It's not feather bedding. I need people. Writing, as I said, writing happens all the way through production, and it happens in post-production. Until we do the last ADR and write the last bridging material where we've cut scenes and gotten down to time, I need writers. And you could ask me as a showrunner, you say, well, you're a writer. I'm also managing the entire construct of the show. I'm cutting film, I'm dealing with contracts for next year. Show running has a lot of facets. And if you're saying, oh, by the way, and do all the writing and don't have a writing staff, you're basically saying, okay, be management, be the producer part of your title, and also do the writing. And what writers are saying here is, look, that's destructive to the core of a writing staff, to maintaining a writing staff that can sustain a show going forward. But it's also an incredible burden. Meanwhile, the writers who are doing this for a living are being told, we don't need you on set, we don't need you doing any of this work, we'll get it from the showrunner. So they're down to 8-10 weeks of work. They can't make a living in a year, they're down to a gig economy. And they're also not learning all of the skill sets that are going to make them into better writers and better producers. So you're not growing the future. I went to set. I got sent to set by Tom Fontana on Homicide, God bless his heart. I got sent to editing. I got sent to ADR. I got sent to all the things that comprise writing, producing. And it made me capable of doing the entire gig because I had the opportunity to train. So it's not just a training program. The showrunners need the work done, but it is also not feather bait. It's not like, oh, magically give us 3 jobs so we can sit around, with our feet up on our desk and drink martinis all day. It's no, go to set, protect the script, consult with the director, make sure you're covering what we need to cover, because here's the truth about storytelling in film form. Is that even the people who are not visually trained, i.e. the writers, understand the story better than anybody, better than the actors. The actors understand their character beautifully, better than the writers. The directors understand shot better than the writers. But it's the writers who understand story, and it's why when you give over a comprehensive long-form story like in TV, they've put the writer in charge. Because when you get to episode 11, you remember everything you set up in episode 1. And that's a long haul. And if you're not training people to conceive of that whole, you're not preparing for the future.
Thinking of Warner's, right, and HBO, like that merged so many times. Right now it's
right.
Warner Discovery, and so that is a perfect example, I think, of, David Zaslav making so much money per year.
Look how much debt they've acquired in order to do all the mergers. First the AT&T thing, look how much debt. There's a certain impulse that says, I just got to cut costs. I don't have to grow the business. I don't have to make this thing more creative. I don't have to expand the subscriber base and convince more people to take my product. I just got to cut costs. It's the simplest, most brutal way, but what it does is mortgage the future. And if you're thinking about what makes TV and film and what has made it and what will make it in the future, it's the story. It's narrative. And that begins with the writers.
So let's talk about AI real quick. I mean, obviously you're the singular writer, people know your name and your product, but what do you see as the future of AI with the industry for writers and studios?
Well, I mean, look, anything like a thesaurus or a dictionary or a book of quotable quotes can go on a writer's shelf and be a tool. But what you're talking about here, like any of those other research bits of research material, is a derivative form. It's you're feeding all the crap into a computer and saying, give me a generically sound cop show like every other stinking cop show done, or a medical show or law show. And that derivative work is never going to break ground. It's never going to bring new viewers to a place where they feel like they're, it's basically like buying a Xerox copy of a print and putting it on your wall. That's Starry Night, that's Guernica, but nobody's going to really look at it with the same hard look that they would give an actual painting. And so I don't mind the idea of it as a toolbox for writers, but don't have a studio telling me, look, we ran it through the algorithm and this is our favorite AI and this will make a cop show that will maximize our viewership. Because in the short term, you might fool some people into watching 10 episodes of crap, but over time, the viewership for that is going to diminish. There's always been a certain amount of derivative crap in television, there always will be, but there was also the running room to create something new. And it's only in the last 20 or 30 years when they got rid of the advertising and went to a pay cable model that people started taking television, particularly, I'm a television writer, seriously, like film. Because all of a sudden you didn't have to appease advertisers. You didn't have to try for every last viewer, no matter whether they were folding their laundry or not paying attention. You could actually write an adult story for adults. So some people said this was a great age for television because all of a sudden the medium grew up. If you give it over to AI, you're going to infantilize it again. And that's not to say that AI can't be like a quick and dirty tool and give writers some bounce back while they're working. But if you're talking about real writing, and if you're talking about real storytelling, and if you're talking about growing the medium, and ultimately growing the audience, you're going to need human beings to say, wait, I thought of something new that I haven't seen. And that's the guts of storytelling. Again, as I said, this is a strike for the younger writers. I'm not paid by the episode, and I'm not paid on a weekly rate, and I have a development deal, and maybe canceled in 5 weeks because of the strike, but hey, that's, I had my run and it's fine. The younger people coming up, they deserve a career. And some of them are great writers and great writers to be, and they deserve a career, and this strike is for them.